Good morning and welcome to another edition of Badass Marketing. I am once again joined by the ever so lovely Angela Dunce. Angela, how are you this morning?
I'm good, Mike. I'm doing okay. How about yourself?
You say it like you're surprised.
Well, it's the end of another week, and I have some very relaxing plans this evening. So, what could be bad?
Exactly. It's Friday, right?
Yes.
Only 2 more days till the weekend.
Something like that. What weekends? Who
Exactly.
has
Yeah,
who
I have a
has
client who's complaining
weekends?
about working six
Are
days a week.
you kidding me? Don't be messing with me, Mike.
Like I said, I have a client who like complaining about working 6 days a week. I'm like, you only work 6 days a week?
Yeah,
I
no.
wish.
Yes.
So what are we chatting about today? What is just burning in the badass marketing world? What should we be talking
Well,
about today?
there's lots of interesting things. People ask me all the time, Angela, what is working in marketing? It looks like nothing is working, right? I get that all the time from people. And, bottom line is simplicity, right? But there is a concept out there about community building. And I think it kind of cuts across everything. I think you can use it for service providers and for, product, regular B2C. And, there's a lot of different ways that you can build communities of your raving fans, your loyal clients, and your referral partnerships. And so, how can you use the momentum and the excitement and the synergy of community building to really boost your brand and to drive business?
And what do you think is the pain point that would say, this is why we need community?
People all want to be a part of something. I mean, the isolation of the pandemic was real. It was very real. I mean, for example, I had a beer with a colleague last night. I mean, we've been working for 2 years on the same committee, emails going back and forth all the time, Zoom meetings, that kind of thing. Do you know how delightful it was to meet him in real life and just get to know him and hear him laugh? And it's just so different. It's so different in real life. And I think communities bring us back to that. I belong to something. There's other people like me. There's validation. There's synergy. There's expression. People get seen and heard in communities. And that is what we're all wanting. Oh, you love this product? I love this product too. Or I love this person. Or, it's we all want to be a part of something bigger. I think that's what we're hardwired for as human beings. And so if you can provide things that satisfy some human needs and that drive business, that's a win for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, we went to a networking event the other night and seriously have not been in one for quite a while. So, and I remember when we were walking in, I'm like, I don't miss these. But like 15 minutes into it, I'm having a good old time. And it's some people I'm meeting for the first time in person, but like you said, we've worked together online, and just that meeting in person is a different experience. And it's just nice to occasionally come together with a group of people that for whatever reason you share something, whether it be a business affiliation or a hobby or something like that, of some like-minded folks. So we went to a business function, we talked politics, we talked business and the challenges that we're facing and all that kind of things. And it was just kind of nice, to be out and about despite my trepidations going into
Yes.
it, you know, of being out and about and connecting in real time with the real person that wasn't sitting behind a screen. So I echo those sentiments of like the need to want to be part of something, the need for a like-minded group of people. So it was definitely quite enjoyable. And like when we left, like, oh, that was great. Why didn't we think of that before?
Oh, I'm with you on
When we
that.
were
I have
walking
to
in the
get
door, we're
myself
like, oh,
psyched
I
up.
hate network.
Yeah, I have to get myself psyched up for large groups of people. And the intimidation in those first couple of minutes, it really does depend on what happens in those first couple of minutes. You hope that you meet somebody that you really want to talk to.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like 10 minutes into it, like I'm starting to run into people I do know, or or people that I you know know by association, but like, oh, you're, like meet you in person kind of thing. And versus the when you first walk into the room and it's all cold and you're like, oh, I have to go up and talk to somebody, you know what I mean? Which is just a
Yes.
painful concept. You know, well, just like, when you're just trying to make small talk with somebody and you don't know if you have anything in common or anything. So but once a few people, you made a few connections, we're sitting around, we're having a good old time, just talking and stuff like that. So, this idea of like this community, I think there's another element to this. And the reason why we are sort of going old school when it comes to community is there's just so much noise online at this point in time. And should you be on TikTok? Should you be on Facebook? Should you be on LinkedIn? There's just like so many different platforms, and we're advocates for omni-channel markets, so we're saying you got to show up, you got to show up. But we also acknowledge there's just a tremendous amount of noise, and it's very hard to break through the noise. And that in-person meeting and making those connections are just so significant when it comes to building your network and building a community.
Yes. Yes, for sure. And I think we need, the support, I don't know, just the camaraderie, like I said before, the validation and the the satisfaction of knowing there are other people that have a common interest, whether it be a product or a service or um, a neighborhood,
Right,
whatever it
right.
is.
Yeah, I mean, it's, these networks tend to be focused on something around, like, so for instance, the event we went to was a merchant association meeting. So, walking into this, that everybody has that agenda in common. And their approach to it, or their, you know, strategies might be slightly different, but everyone's sort of like, okay, we need to support merchants, we need to support local, so, walking into the event, everyone's got this common, you know, underlying principle that we're all sort of aligned to, thus we're here. And then a couple of months ago we went to a green event. It was the same thing. We're like, people are very green focused. So at least you had an entree for a conversation with a stranger. You had that element in common.
Right. Well, and I think there's another underlying element here to community. Solopreneurs, I mean, who do we talk to? We sit in front of a computer and do our work all day. And so we have some isolation, some more than others. And people who work from home, there's a certain amount of isolation there as well. And, you know, I don't think it ever got as real as it did during the pandemic. And so just having something in common with another human being um, is really warm fuzzy.
Yeah, I remember I moved from Chicago to San Francisco, didn't know many people, and then was working on Chicago hours. So most of my work was still back in Chicago. So, online, 2 hour time difference, this kind of thing. And I wasn't, I was out on my own, but I wasn't speaking with humans on a regular basis, you know what I mean? Like in person, live people. And I remember just like being a little too needy with the barista, because like it was the first person I had seen in like 3 days. And the barista was like, yeah, take your coffee and go. But that idea of like being that solo entrepreneur, especially in the beginning when you're not used to it, like if you've come out of an office environment, and I'm sure many folks have experienced this when they transitioned during the pandemic for working from home, like it's a shift, it's a different mindset.
Yes.
There's, the thing that I always found very helpful is like when I was going to the office, that was just a block of time that was just gone, right? So like, I work from home, my kids at home, I do this, like there's just no boundaries, because everything is so blurred, right? My day doesn't end at
Right.
5 o'clock. It ends when, when I look at the
When
last
you go
email,
to bed.
maybe, or even after that, right? Yeah. But I'm just saying, so many of the boundaries have gotten blurred, and it's nice to go out to a structure where, like, okay, the event starts at 6 o'clock. I have to plan on getting there and parking, and and then I'll be home by this time. And there's a certain structure to it that was familiar from when we were going to events and going in person. But the other interesting thing is, so we're driving back from the social event, which I'm saying maybe 30 people. It wasn't huge, but we passed the convention center. And I was like, that concept of like going to a convention with one of your closest germ sharing friends. It's just like, I don't know that, I really appreciate to an in-person event, but I don't know that I'm ready to go back to conferences and conventions and traveling, half the time and, out of the month, those types of things. Where now, like, I can't remember last time I traveled for business. I have Zoom. What else do I need?
Right, right. Well, and so I think building communities online is a super convenient thing um, that provides something for people that they need. And maybe they learn something along the way if it's for marketing purposes, and get validated and seen and heard and all that other stuff in a type of community. So one of the things that is really important about this from a marketing standpoint is, who are your people? Know your community. What are their habits? What channels are they on? What time of day is it that they like to consume content? What are their needs, wants, secret desires? Those are the things that you need to know to really start building community. And I do think that in real life is an important piece, if it's possible. If you're a national brand, may not be possible to have a lot of local events, but building community on Instagram or on LinkedIn or wherever in marketing emails is an important piece of building community.
Yeah, and I'm going to sort of echo the element of it's a piece of building community, because to continue to pursue this omni channel, we've just started off this whole conversation like there's nothing like being in person. So even when we're building these online communities, if there's an opportunity to occasionally meet in person and there's an opportunity to take it offline, leverage that, because it does provide a different experience. It is just different hanging out in person than chatting online. And I don't get me wrong, I've had cocktails online over Zoom, to sort of recreate that cocktail networking experience, but it doesn't feel the same. Like, pretty
No.
sure I'm drinking at home behind my computer, right? So somehow it seems a little less depressing if I go out into the world to consume the same beverage. But if I do it at my desk, with my fake lights and all that kind of stuff, it feels sort of sad.
Yes, yes. I've done some wine tastings and some other things, and they're fun and they're interesting, but they do not substitute for the real thing.
So, I think that using online communities, the opportunity to build online communities, is a great way to build your network. And I'm just reminding you that, leverage them as a tool, and they're not the sole solution.
Exactly. So the second element of this whole idea is really sharing stories. So would you share some of your thoughts on the kinds of stories that you need to build community?
I guess I'm going down a path, but for me, what was always interesting is the real work in the network is those one-on-one opportunities, right? Because if you're in a Zoom call with 30 people, you're not getting to know folks. I mean, some personalities, some characters in the room, things like that, but just truly getting to know somebody. And I know that, like, when we were doing networking, then we'd go, and this was pre-COVID, where we would go and meet in person, and then schedule a one-to-one in person. It was always like this magical moment, like in the one-on-one, probably following several cocktails that like, oh my God, we have so much in common. You know what I mean? And it was probably the alcohol, but what I'm saying is, that in-person experience and sort of getting to know somebody, and you can get to know people online, but there's just I've gone to events where I've probably known the people for a year online. And it was just like, oh, I got to hug them. Like that was like a different experience. You know what I mean? Or, oh my God, they were so tall, or they were so short, or they were this and that. But just like this, like the real world experience of, interacting with other people, has all some of the other, you know, senses of touch and feeling and things like that. So.
Well, and I think the conversation is different. What you're willing to share when you're sitting at your computer screen and what you actually share when you're sitting across a coffee table or having dinner with someone, it's a very different, much more intimate situation.
But they're also the focus of your attention. I'm very guilty of when I'm online and conference calls, I have three or four other things going on. I'm probably still reading emails, or if a message pops in and, I'll check that and those types of things. I'm acknowledging, and it's, bad etiquette, but I do do it while I'm online. And it's much harder, or not saying you can't be an unreasonable person in person and do it, but it's just much harder. Or, I was going to use another word, but I'll refrain.
It's more rude.
Yeah, right, yeah. Thank you. That was better than the word I was thinking of. But you're sort of forced to be more engaged because they're directly in front of you, and it was funny though because we ran into somebody that we didn't feel like interacting with. And making that escape. Just,
And there's that.
yeah. So that's the joy of it. The opposite side of in person is, you get sometimes it's harder to get away, or sometimes, it's just sort of extracting yourself from a painful conversation. Where online you can, it's pretty easy to do that.
Right. Right. That's so let's go back to this idea of story. Like I said before, people are asking me all the time, what's working? And I tell my clients constantly, if you're not telling stories, if you're not talking about client success stories or, personal challenges that you've had in your business or your origin story, my gosh, I'm fascinated by people's origin stories, and we all dismiss it because it happened to us. It doesn't feel that interesting. But when I find out how people started their own business or ended up wherever
Or
they
why,
did,
or yeah.
or
Yeah.
why, or how, or, they're from the Bronx and they're, I don't know, in Campbell, California, doing some interesting little thing. It's fascinating to me. And that is where you form real connection.
And the other thing I think is tremendously important, and you can't sort of underemphasize this, is it's also the opportunity to really listen to what people are telling you and to ask them a couple probing questions. But for me, it's less about projecting my story versus listening to what's going on with them, understanding the pain points, maybe doing a little root cause to make sure that what they're talking about is the issue or the symptom. And just sort of really sort of delving into like, well, what's going on? How can we help you, sort of mentality. And how can we help you doesn't necessarily mean we're going to try to sell you something. It could be I can make an introduction for you. It could be I could send you to a resource, but like, how can I help you based on what's going on? So I think the other thing about being in person, there really is that opportunity to just sit and listen and get a better sense of what's going on with this person before you try to propose a solution. I love when people propose solutions without understanding the problem, but it's just me.
Well, and I think another thing that I kind of listen for when I hear people's stories is I'm really looking for what are the underlying values? What is it that's important to them? And that can give you some real insights on how you can connect or provide resources or, whatever it might be. That's the goal of the conversation. Or, just the natural outcome of the conversation. but really getting in touch with what is it that they value. Is it efficiency? Is it relationship? Is it this problem is keeping me up at night and I need a solution for it. Whether I can provide that solution for them or I need to refer it to someone else. But really just figuring out what's important to them, what are their values, how can I speak to them in a way that is going to be meaningful for them. But the listening, I love that so much, Mike. It's just, I don't think we listen with the intent to really hear what the other person is saying so much anymore. And there is a real magic in that. If you listen to somebody, you will find out how you have things in common, where there is, I don't know, some synchronicity, some commonality, some connection.
Well, just the idea of trying to sort of listen without an agenda, because a lot of times as a small
Yes.
business owner, we're trying to sell something, whether we have a product or a service, and I'm trying to figure out how to twist whatever you're telling me into my solution. And so like I'm, in my head, I'm like, oh, I have the, like before I even know what your issue is, I have the solution for it. And
Yeah.
in a sales
No.
mode, I'm trying to sell you the solution and convince you that you have the problem that the solution solves. Whereas if you sort of start from the, what's going on without a solution, you're going to be so much more receptive to hearing what's truly going on, because you're not you're not automatically proposing a solution. And
Exactly.
the other thing, for at least for me, is I think it's important also to get a sense of this isn't maybe a good fit. Maybe, whether we don't match personality wise, or the problem that you have and the solution we're offering don't probably really match. I can probably refer you somewhere that might be more suitable. But, the other element is, we're all limited resources when it comes to time and bandwidth. If somebody is sort of crossing our path and, for whatever reason we deem that we want to move on, that can be a huge time saving, right? Just that acknowledgement.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
well,
we can't love everybody, and
and not everybody can love us.
hard to believe, but true. So I don't know. No, but I mean, because I've gone to networking groups, and like there'll always be a person or two who will stand out, and I'm like, nope, we don't match. We're not going to do anything together. I can tell that from the very beginning. And sometimes I'm wrong, but most of the times that's a pretty good gut. We just have a different sense of things. The whole idea of like know, like, and trust, like you do need to like somebody to refer them.
Yes.
Like I would be hard pressed, even if they were completely capable in their services, in referring someone I don't like. It's hard, right? I mean, I'm sure they're very competent CPA, but I can't get past their personality, or they can't get past mine, whatever it might be. So
yeah, I talked to a professional yesterday, and I don't doubt that she is extremely talented at what she does, but emotionally she's a hot mess, and she just comes off being so confrontational. And I couldn't, no matter how magical her solution is, I don't think I could refer her, because she's just so hard to see through this confrontational attitude that she has.
yeah, and I'm better off, acknowledging that, like, hey, maybe this isn't a good fit, than to pretend like, oh yeah, you're in my group, I'm going to refer to you. And then, because I've been in groups where for whatever reason I'm not referring to somebody, and had them confront me like, well, why aren't you referring to me? And I'm gonna come up with a reason, but I'm not likely to say because I don't like you. It's, what I mean? But that's what's going on in my head, and it's fine. Some people don't like us, we don't like them. Not everyone is going to fit into your network, or not everyone, and that's sort of about building your network, people who you do know, like, and trust.
And the stories about this stuff are really interesting. I mean, you started out telling us a story about a networking thing that you went to. Now that's very real. That draws people in. That's an immediate, you could see yourself in those kinds of situations, whether you're an extrovert and you love those things, or you're an introvert and you avoid them like the plague. You can still see yourself in those situations. So there's an element to story, as long as you keep it really super brief, that really, it's I've taken a gajillion writing classes over the course of my life. And, they always tell you this thing, show, don't tell. You know, it was a dark and stormy night. Well, great. Was it thunder and lightning? Were there dry leaves flying around in the air? It's really illustrates the story. And stories are, I can tell you, oh, I can solve your problem. But if I tell you a story about somebody else's problem that I solved, that's much more meaningful. It sticks in our brain.
Yeah, especially if it resonates, where like I can recognize the pain point that that person had as something that I might have, and therefore, I'll be open to that solution because I recognize myself in the story.
Right. Exactly. So,
And that's why
I,
when we're working with folks, and we're building the user personas, we're very careful to understand the language that they're using. Versus the language that we would use as an industry professional. We want to know how they think of it. What are they calling this? What are they feeling? Because that is how, if we can capture what, a typical client is feeling when they're making these types of purchases, then if we can tell the story that conveys those feelings, hopefully others will recognize themselves in the situation and then seek out this solution.
yeah. Oh, so important. I was working with a franchise consultant yesterday, and, buying a franchise is a big decision, and you kind of have to have an entrepreneurial mindset. You can't be um, timid and not a risk taker. And, and she was trying to come up with some stories that would really convey this whole idea that you have to be a risk taker. You have to have commitment, and you have to have this entrepreneurial, off the script mindset. And so we worked on a couple of stories for her that she could use in a welcome series to really get this message across, so that she doesn't waste 6 weeks working with somebody to have them turn tail and run at the last minute because they can't do it.
Or to recognize after 6 weeks that, oh, this wasn't a really good fit.
Yes.
Just figuring out whether or not you can work together. I mean, it's interesting because we've had numerous
Yes.
clients where, we went through the honeymoon period where everybody was just thrilled to death. And then
Oh,
shortly
yes.
thereafter, the cracks started to show. And, part of it was us, part of it was them. And, but, it became clear, that this was probably not the working relationship that either one of us needed. And therefore, and yet others are just, it's perfect from, day one, or it was just okay from day one, but they evolved because it, we delivered things like that.
Right.
But, as a limited resource, picking and choosing who you want to work with, what type of people you want to work with, people that you like, ideally. My referral network is going to be people I like, because I'm not going to refer to anyone if I don't trust them, if I don't like them. I can't pass that along.
Exactly. And sharing stories helps people self-select whether you're the right person or they're the right person for you. Whatever, how they
Yeah, or if
respond
they
to
can
it.
self-identify with the problem, and therefore that solution makes sense.
Yes. So, another concept of this whole community building thing is hero products. And you work with a couple of e-commerce kinds of places. Do any of them have a clear hero product that you could speak to?
So I mean, I think what we should do is we should sort of define this idea of what a hero product is, and
That'd be a great place to start.
conceptually.
What I'm really curious about is the tequila store. Do they have a hero product? Because they need one, and I want them to have one.
Yeah, you know, the I think with it, so we work with a tequila retailer, and I think the hero product there isn't a product per se, but it's an expertise that we bring to the table in education and sharing information about, how do you select a tequila, what are the tasting notes, why is it important to understand where it's distilled, what are the noms. So these are all these sort of industry things that when you're new to drinking tequila are just overwhelming. You know, for many people, we all experienced tequila in college, and it was probably a painful memory at this point. Most of mine were, you
Yes,
know, where you're drinking, shots, and it's, salt
it's
and lemon,
ridiculous
and
from the
it's just
word go.
ridiculous. Right. And you just want to die the next day or what have you. So those aren't our clients. Thank God, they're not our clients. We are, we've stopped doing shots because we're older, and we are sipping now and sort
Yes.
of enjoying the flavors and the profiles and all that type of thing. But if you're new to the industry and you're new to a spirit or something like that, you want to know, like, how is it produced, how does that, the production impact the flavor, the taste, how do you want to experience this, like, how, should you be doing shots, or should you be, taking the time to, sip it, explore it, smell it, those types of things to enjoy the experience. We also will get into pairings. So what are good food pairings with tequila and other agave spirits, to just sort of round out that overall experience. So I think our hero product, which I think was the question, is, the educational component that we
It's a
bring.
hero service.
It's the hero service because it's the educational component that we bring to new clients who are new to the product, that are new to the spirit, but either like it or are starting to like it, or are curious and want to explore, and they want to understand the production process, understand, the different flavor profiles, all those types of things. So for us, I think the hero product is our education and that we offer, and we do that, obviously, part of it through online content marketing, newsletters, websites, social media, those types of things.
And see, there you go. That is exactly it. That is community building. And tequila tasting is something, maybe you try it and it's not for you, or maybe you try it and you're a lifelong taster. There's always
Yeah, and
more
I
to
mean, the other thing
learn.
too is maybe you try it and you didn't have someone guide you, or you just, you didn't get necessarily a good product, because, one of the things that, we will talk to people about when they're first new to tequila is, so what do you like to drink now? Right? Because, if you like whiskey, then we can look at tequilas that have been aged and have sort of that barrel flavor, so we'll also sort of explore, what do you enjoy now, something that might be comparable, or something that, you can relate to in the agave spirit that, you get in other products that you like. Some people want to drink it neat, some people want to put it into a cocktail like margarita, or, so, those are the types of things we're going to ask before we make a recommendation.
Exactly. Now, there's a couple of things. This is just so rich. I want to unpack a couple of things here. Number one, Mike, you always say we when you talk about this. It's not your store, but you
Nope.
always say we in this amazingly ownership type of way. You're a stakeholder in this. This is at the heart of community. And then you also talked about all the ways you stay in touch with your audience. There's a newsletter. Did you say that there's videos? What were all the things that you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, we use, many different channels. So we have videos that are on YouTube. We have, videos and reels and images that go on Instagram. We're on local search, where we have our website, we have a weekly newsletter. And these are all various touch points, and some people subscribe to several, and some people have a primary focus where they just read the newsletter, or they just go to Instagram. And
And
rather
they
than
get
trying
to
to
choose.
well, rather than trying to figure out, which is the best for them, we let them self-select. We just appear everywhere that we can reasonably, and, let them self-select the medium that best works for them.
And that is, I mean, at its core, that is really beautiful community building.
And and then we have an in-person real life come to the store, experience the product, come talk to us, so there, we
In a
mix into
quaint
that.
little neighborhood,
Right. Best little neighborhood ever.
charming,
That's
really,
us. But that also, but that's also part of our experience is come talk to us, come, we'll walk you through products, we'll
in
show you
real
those types of
life.
things in real life. Yeah, come look at it, come see it, come, taste it and smell it, those types of things. Because that's part of the experience, obviously, is to actually, you can order online and never meet us and never talk to us, or some folks are like, no, they'll at least come into the store once or twice to understand the store, and maybe from then they can buy online because they have the connection. But people, like, they want to come in and they want to see the product, they want to experience the product in person before they make a purchase.
Yes. Well, and it is an experience, and they get to choose what their experience is with this product and service.
From many of them, there's a curiosity about the product, and we're helping them explore it because when you just step into it, it can be overwhelming. There's so much there,
Yeah.
available. There's so much information, and people don't know where to start. So we begin at the beginning and say, here's things like, what do you like? Here's something that's comparable. Have you considered trying this? Have you tried that? And sort of help them learn the experience, so they begin to know what to look for, begin to understand what they like. So they're like, well, if you like this, I mean, we're very much like Amazon. If you like this, you're going to like that. Where a lot of people who buy this also like that. If you drink this kind of whiskey, you might want this type of tequila, those types of, connections for them. And I can say, I don't have a number to back this up per se, but I can tell you that most of the people that, follow our recommendations are very happy with them because, it has opened up new experiences. And then they begin to understand like the flavor profiles and like, do you sense this? I'm like, oh yeah, I get that now. You know what I mean? And we sort of distinguish like the notes, the palate, the finish, those types of things as part of the overall experience of sipping tequila.
And then do they have a way to share feedback that's fairly seamless?
They do. We have comments where folks add comments, and both on social media as well as on our website. And we get, people, it's interesting, either they've experienced the product and they like it and they will write that, or they're very good about, like, on Google Business and things like that, conveying the experience they had when they came to visit us, which is tremendously important, those testimonials. And then there are people like, oh, this particular juice was crap. It's horrible. I'm like, okay, well, thanks for your opinion. Sometimes we agree with them and sometimes we don't, but if they don't like something, they'll tell us that as well. So it's all good.
And there's always going to be that. that's
It's
just
fine. I mean, some of
it's
the things
tequila.
that they push back on, we probably agree with. Like, yeah, well, we didn't. You wanted to try it and we let you try it. Doesn't mean we said, that wasn't our particular recommendation, but you wanted to try this one product or what have you. There are some big brands out there, so people will come in and want to drink brands. Okay.
Now, I seem to remember when I was at the store that you guys mentioned, you do things live in real time every once in a while. Like, hey, such and such product just came in. Or we have a couple bottles of it left or whatever. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, because there will be products that people are looking for, right? That either have gotten a fair amount of press and then they're hot. And, those products are hard to keep on the shelf. So, when they do come in, we're like, they're in. We don't know for how long.
Get your
we
butt
don't know when
down
they're coming
here.
back. And the other thing, like with tequila, is it's very much like wine, that you have vintages and years and things like
Yes.
that. So, a lot of the time, some of the urgency is, if you like this particular batch, you should buy more because the next batch might be different.
Yeah.
The weather might be different, the production might be slightly different. So we're very much about the sort of collectible aspect of some batches. And some people will, they'll call us and they'll ask us, what's the batch number? Because some batches like some wine vintages are better than, some years than others. So, people will check batch numbers and things like that.
So the fourth concept in this whole community building idea is fueling conversations across channels. So let's review from this story that we've been sharing. What are the various ways that you fuel these conversations across channels?
Well, I mean, we add the education component through videos on YouTube, through posts on Instagram and other social media, so that people can begin to understand. We walk through flavor profiles, we walk through production processes, and how they impact, the taste and the flavors, the notes. And by giving people this background, like, here's what you should look for, because a lot of times when someone points it out to you, then like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I do get that, or I do sense that. I mean, it's always very interesting when we do the flavor profiles, because those can be very personalized depending on how how you experience this and how someone else experienced it may differ depending on your likes and things like that. But a lot of times we're like, people will come in and like, I don't like mezcal because it's smoky, and that's just like, okay, there's about 200 species of agave that go into that, and a whole bunch of varieties of production processes. So, I can find you a non-smoky mezcal, and it's very common, obviously, but, sort of to just dispel some of these myths around a product about something
exactly.
people don't know that well, like all mezcals are smoking. Like, no, actually they're not. So that gives us, an opportunity to, like, if you're not a big fan of the smoke, there are other things that you might want to try, or you might want to try, this particular species because it tends to be more fruity, or more,
Yes.
So that gives them the opportunity, just the feedback. So by sharing it, they try it, then they give us feedback. They tell us what they like, why they liked it, those types of things.
And the places that they can find this information would be email marketing in the newsletter,
Right.
the YouTube channel, Instagram, the website. Have I missed anything?
Those are the primary. We have a couple other channels where we have Facebook groups and things like that. But the primary channels are the newsletter, the website, and then probably Instagram. Instagram is, because a lot of these products visually are very attractive, so that's a good medium for us.
So you're fueling interesting conversations in the community using a visual channel, a text channel. The website is going to be a combination, and the YouTube channel is visual.
Right.
So that's a really good variety. That's a fabulous mix.
And there's other aspects to it as well. Like, so, the website, we have live chat, and, people will text us and ask us questions. And, we can, we're pretty good about responding in real time. It's not 100%, but we're pretty good about that. But that also adds to the experience, right? Where someone's like, oh, I'm looking at these two products. What do you think? What do you recommend? And we're doing that through a chat function. If we had a client yesterday call up and say, I don't understand the tax that you charged us, right? And we're like, oh, unfortunately, you live in California, so we just charge you a lot of it. But, we were able to, via text, because we're chatting with them, go through, what was the tax, how, it was calculated, why it's calculated, and call your legislator if you're unhappy. But,
exactly.
We were able to explain, this person thought it was high, and we said, well, unfortunately, there's this tax, there's that tax, there's, some other magical taxes because it's a spirit or because it's a sin tax.
Yes.
But, and they were satisfied with that, like, we were able, it wasn't just like, oh, the tax is wrong, and we're like, oh no, it's fine.
And it's mysterious and
whatever. We walk through it. We're like, okay, here's how it's broken down. There's 5 or 6 components to it. Here's what it is. And sorry, because it's just a lot.
Yes. Well, and so that brings me to the final point in our last couple of minutes here, is making transactions effortless. The tax is kind of mysterious because there's state, there's federal, there may be some import stuff in there.
There's
There's all,
local, yeah,
oh
yeah.
my God, there's so many pieces and parts to that. But being able to make their experience an effortless transaction is super important because, if you piss me off because it's really difficult, I'm never coming back. So it is an important piece. So, in the final couple of minutes here, talk about this effortless transactions piece. That was a
Well, I mean,
beautiful example.
yeah, I mean, user experience is huge because if, you know, any sort of delays on your website, any sort of challenges, like, we very much will focus on, exits from the website. And that tells us where somebody visited the website, where they went and where they left. And, what we want to look for is, if they always leave from one particular place, particularly if it's in the shopping cart, then we need to look at what's causing them to leave, right? Is the checkout too hard? Are we asking too many questions? Is it not clear? Right. So we're very focused on the user experience, and one of the primary ways that we look at that is where do they leave? Like, where do they decide, oh, I've had enough with this website? So that I'm just done. And and we've all had that, whether waiting
Oh
for
my
something,
God.
sitting, those types
A
of things.
page won't load.
The page won't load, the information, there's a broken link. Those all will contribute to the user experience, and ideally, first and foremost, the navigation needs to be clear so that people can find what they're looking for, right? That, don't make me work at trying to buy something from your store. Make it, clear, make it, here's the category, here's the breakdown, why, hopefully they understand why we've broken it down the way they do, but to make sure it's clear. The other thing that we think is tremendously important is to make sure that we have transparency, like, this product, we have this many in stock, so so that you don't place an order just to get a message like, oh, we don't have it. We try to be very clear, what's in stock, what's
Upfront.
out of stock, right? If it's out of stock and you're interested, we'll give you a button and let you sign up, and we'll notify you when it comes back in stock. You know what I mean? So you don't have to keep checking. We'll send you a message. We use the chat function so that folks can talk to us in real time when we're open, and ask us questions. And, people be like, when's my delivery? And, what can we do? And this types, or, what do you recommend? I drink this, what about that? So we're able to sort of have an interactive experience on our website through the chat, which is, very helpful to, help people either make a buying decision or resolve something so that they have a good user experience.
And let's just make it very clear, the delivery area for the website is just the state of California. Is that correct?
Currently, yeah, currently. We're working on that, but currently. Yeah, but I mean, and we're very clear, because like we'll get inquiries and, we're like, no, sorry, we don't deliver there. Yeah, and we'll tell you that up front. We don't take your money. We're just like, this is where we serve and this is, what we're capable of. We try to set realistic expectations on deliveries. This is how long it takes, those types of things. I was looking at a metric yesterday that it takes us 11 minutes to resolve an online inquiry, which I thought was pretty good. I was sort of impressed.
11 minutes. That's pretty great.
From when they contact us to when it's resolved. So on average, it took us that 11 minutes from the initial contact.
That's amazing. That's really awesome. And all of that contributes to why they have loyal clients and a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, that's about building trust, especially with our repeat customers, where like they know it was a good experience. They know that delivery is going to be timely. They know that if we don't have something, we'll tell them right away so that they can either wait or make other plans if they can't find it in our store. We'll do whatever we can to help facilitate that. But those are the people that come back, right? Because they had a good experience with us. If they don't have a good experience, they're just not coming back. But if you want, we love the repeat customers, and we have some folks that shop on a regular basis, because they're easy. Like I don't have to sell them anymore because they know, like they've experienced it, they like it, they're just reordering. And those are in our mind, like some of our best clients. and and we try to add value there as well, but it's just, we've gained their trust, so it makes the future orders much easier.
And I think you just hit on the golden nugget to wrap up this entire conversation.
Drink
Community
more.
is built on trust.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, we've talked about referral networking and this concept of know, like, and trust, and that's sort of a hierarchy of needs, right? First, we get to know you, then we get to like you, and then ultimately we trust you, which is the holy grail when it comes to referral networking, is trust. Because I can't, in good conscience, send someone to someone I don't trust.
Yeah.
Because that's my reputation on the line if they don't perform.
Yes. Yes. And our reputation is our brand.
Yep. So, and then from the user experience, if we can deliver a good user experience, if we can make it easy for them to transact with us, they're going to come back. If the website spins, or if the time's out, or you end up on a broken link, you're just going to get frustrated and go somewhere else. So we make it, we think, as easy as possible as that we can, and we continually work on that to improve it. But just this idea of having the live chat, for us, that's huge, because it really does. People will get stuck and they hit the chat, and we can resolve it, and then we can likely convert what might have been an abandonment into a sale. And
Right.
ultimately, at the end of the day, we want to convert folks, the visitors, into customers.
So I hope we've made a really amazing case for the idea that community building should be a part of almost everyone's efforts in marketing.
So if you would, we talked about 5 things that are contributors to building community. Can you repeat those?
Yes, be happy to. So number 1 is really know who your community is. What are their pain points? What are their preferences? Where are they at? Number 2 is story. Continue to add stories to this community on the user experience, or somebody's success story, or your origin story, or the story of one of the tequilas, and that sort of thing. Story is what we're really keyed into and what we really remember. Now, item number 3 is this idea of hero products, or in this case, a hero service. Do you have something that's just quintessential to your business that people can really wrap their heads around and make a connection to it? And then item number 5 is, once you've found out all of these things, you want to be fueling conversations and sharing these stories and products and services across several different channels where your community is going to be. And then number 5 is making...
So that was number 4, but...
Oh, yes, that was number 4. Sorry. Number
Yep.
5
Okay, there you go.
is making transactions effortless. Make it easy for somebody to interact with you. Once you develop all this trust with the stories and conversations, make it easy for them to purchase.
Yeah, the whole user experience, will color
beginning to end
their future shopping habits with you. I mean, we shop, I'm sad to admit this, but we shop Amazon on a regular basis. And one of the reasons why is when we've shopped non-Amazon stores, it doesn't show up on time. There's problems getting a hold of the vendor, these types of things. And then we know that if we order it on Amazon, we have sort of Amazon as the backup. Like if it doesn't show up, I know that I can contact them about the billing. So there's a certain level of trust that we've developed with the Amazon platform.
Convenience.
And convenient, because everything's there. I know it's going to show up. I know that I have recourse to Amazon if it doesn't.
Yes.
So that trust in that platform is why we keep going back. I mean, I wouldn't shop there other than some of these other factors that are, I know that the product will show up. I'll know that if there's a problem, I have someone to contact. Those types of things.
Yes. Yep. Great conversation, Mike. This was just so interesting, and I really think the tequila story is just it's a wonderful example.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a great industry and it's a great sort of user experience case study because, you're introducing people to, not necessarily a well-known product. They're aware of tequila, but, sort of the nuances. We have the opportunity to help them explore that and to sort of educate them in that process. And that makes a great user experience. And then, we focus on the overall experience of shopping with us, whether in person or online. What is the communication like? How fast do we respond? And those are all important issues when it comes to developing that know, like, and trust.
Exactly. So what are we going to talk about next week?
Next week, I'm
To
I'm
be
getting through this
determined.
week to be determined. Yeah, we'll come up with something for sure. But
Something
we'll think on that
titillating.
one. It's the middle of the summer. We can't think. We're lucky we can get through it. So thank you for joining us for another edition of Badass Marketing. Angela, as always, such a pleasure. Next week's topic will be determined because apparently I can't think of one and we can't come up with one on the
And
spot.
send us some
We'll come up with something.
suggestions.
Send us suggestions below, like, link, do whatever you need to do. And we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Bye.